In this episode of Highlight Sundays, what's wrong with the present and how the future is gonna fix it. Hello and welcome back to Highlight Sundays. It is the 35th week of 2013 and here are your highlights. We start off with yet another scary PSA from netsecurity.org, and this is entitled Largest DDoS Attack Ever Disrupts China's Internet. Now, we've discussed something like this perhaps last week or 2 weeks ago. An attack on a DNS server has actually caused a large number of other servers to go down. Last time, the attackers actually attacked a .gov top-level domain, causing all government websites to go down. This particular attack came at an even larger scale, seeing as that it targets the .cn country-specific domain. Seeing as that a huge number of sites will actually use the .cn top-level domain, well, this did cause quite a lot of damage as well. It is not clear who is behind this or what sort of, powers they have in this sense. So unfortunately, there isn't a whole lot that can be done about this. All we realize, of course, is that, well, the entire DNS system is rather shaky. As the article mentions, denial of service attacks are getting larger and larger scale these days. Hopefully this will serve as some kind of incentive to modify the internet structure, the way it currently works, to make it more robust against such attacks. We move on to our next article from Gizmodo. This one is entitled, Why Your Next Smartphone Might Be Full of Wax. Now, if you've actually looked at the spec sheet for any modern phone, you realize that you're packing a pretty fast processor into that very tiny body. What that means, of course, is that there needs to be a smart way to deal with heat. My phone has a 1 GHz processor. 10 years ago, my desktop had a 1 GHz processor that had a heatsink and fan. And of course, what this means is that that processor can't be running at full speed all the time unless you want to hold the electronic equivalent of a baked potato in your hands. And that's why manufacturers have to find creative solutions to prevent overheating. Right now, common techniques include actually shutting down parts of the processor and only turning them on when required, or underclocking the processor as a whole. In this particular article, what is suggested is we could actually coat the processor with some kind of wax. The interesting thing about this wax is that it has a rather low melting point. What this means is that when the processor actually runs, gets too hot, it actually melts the wax. This transfer of heat to the wax, in turn, actually prevents the entire phone from overheating. While this is actually an extremely efficient way to do things without actually having to add a fan to your phone, as you can tell, this isn't going to last for an extremely long time. The idea, of course, is that if you need a burst of performance, you can go ahead and do that. The wax will absorb the impact. But once the wax is kinda depleted, you're gonna have to give it time to actually cool down and re-solidify. So yes, before you get worried, you will not need to actually replace or change that wax. It's gonna re-solidify, it's gonna work the same way again the next time. The only problem is, you can't be burning your processor at full speed for an extended period of time. Having said all that, this is still an extremely interesting implementation. The article calls it computational sprinting, and it is kinda like that. Little bursts of power can be borne by the device, and in quite a lot of applications, that's really all we need. So very interesting concept. Hopefully they will roll this out to phones soon, and we'll get beefier and more powerful phones. Our next article comes from Engadget, and it asks, remember the YouTube video responses you never clicked on? Well, they're going away. Yep, that's as simple as it sounds. YouTube is going to be removing video responses. Being someone who's been on YouTube for so long, video responses seem to be an integral part of what YouTube is. That's not to say I've really used that feature or had any benefits out of it pretty much all these years. I've probably had like 5 or 6 requests for video responses on my videos from other people, and most of the time they turn out to be spam of some sort. I guess as YouTube is revamping things, they will be removing what they see as redundant. And speaking of redundant, the article does actually go on to mention that the click-through rate on video responses is a whopping 0.0004%. If my math serves me correctly, what that means is that's actually 4 in 100,000 views, or 1 in 2,500 views. So that's a feature that is very rarely used, and I guess I can see why they actually want to remove this. Interestingly, it does seem that YouTube is actually implementing hashtags, and what that means is we're gonna get all our Twitter fun right here on YouTube. Honestly, I'm not gonna miss video responses, but I guess, well, I will welcome the hashtags. More new things. We have an article from ZDNet entitled Samsung will unveil Galaxy Gear smartwatch next week. You know what this means, right? The major mobile manufacturers are officially stepping in to actually join the smartwatch game. This will of course hopefully push smartwatches to a level that is more greatly consumed than it is right now. Personally, I'm very excited to see Samsung's take on the smartwatch. Unfortunately, since this is ahead of an official unveiling, we don't really have a whole lot of information. It does however seem pretty clear that this will be an Android device, but we don't really know a whole lot more beyond that. Personally, I'm even more excited to see if this starts garnering the attention of the more major industry players. Hopefully the smartwatch market will be getting even more active than it is today. But alright, that's all there is for today's episode of Highlight Sundays. If you have any comments, queries or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. Don't forget to follow the official Twitter account for this channel at twitter.com/0612tv. As always, appreciate every like, favorite and subscription you give me. Until next time, you are watching 0612TV.